I invite Dr. Pramod once again to take Dr. Lingam Gopal's place and tell us about extrapolating current evidence into clinical practice. Lingam is a little unwell and unable to give his talk, but I believe the slides are with Pramod.
Basically, as we know, when you talk about level of incidence, as far as prognosis of the disease is concerned, we have 5 levels. The level 1 is high level prospective cohort studies. Level 2 is a less quality prospective cohorts. Level 3, we have case control studies or review of similar studies. We'll come to that a little bit later on. And level 4 is case series. Level 5 is expert opinion or clinical examples, etc. As far as therapeutic studies are concerned, we have again 5 levels, but again we group them, divide them into group A, B, C subdivision. So 1A is systematic review of randomized trials. 1B is individual RCTs. 1C is all or none studies. 2A is systematic review of cohort studies. 2B is individual cohort studies. 2C is outcome research, ecological studies. 3A is a systematic review of the case control, and 3B is individual case control. 4, there are case series, and level 5 is expert opinion without critical appraisal as we have in a diagnostics. As far as grade of recommendations are concerned, there are again 4 grades, A, B, C, D. Grade A is basically have a strong recommendation. It's when you have a level 1 evidence or consistent finding from multiple studies with level 2, 3, and 4 evidence. Grade B, you have a level 2, 3, 4 evidence and general consistency. And C is when you have a level 2, 3, 4 but have a evidence little bit inconsistent. And D grade is where level 5 evidence and you do not have systematic appraisal. So basically different criteria is what you are looking into as far as screening, frequency of follow-up, treatment of diabetic macular edema, proliferative retinopathy, vitrectomy, systemic management. Will come to one by one to that. So as far as screening is concerned, it's like a second talk. WHO gave a criteria where you have the condition should be an important health problem. There should be a treatment for condition. Facilities for diagnosis and treatment should be available. There should be a latent stage of the disease so we can diagnose disease before it manifests. There should be a test for examination for the conditions, and the test should be acceptable to the population. The natural history of the disease should be adequately understood, and you should have agreeable policy on whom to treat. The total cost of finding a case should be economically balanced in relation to the medical expenditure as a whole. And case finding should be a continuous process and not just a once and for all project. So when you come in the different groups now, as far as screening is concerned, we have 2 groups, 2 methodologies, as a hospital-based screening or community-based screening. It can be by general practitioner using a fundus photography technique or telescreening. It is important to sensitize the physician and treating the diabetes, and probably if you do that, you have reasonably good agreement. As far as screening is concerned, for telescreening now, there is no obvious randomized trial. So evidence is somewhere around level 3 or 4. As far as recommendations are concerned, you say perhaps grade C. What it means is basically it should be optional. Disease or no disease grading by non-specialists after a short period of training is generally acceptable. And anything abnormal here, it is graded as put the mark there, and these patients are subsequently referred to the ophthalmologist for further evaluation. Subjects with ungradable images are again seen by specialists and accordingly advised. And this approach covers more people at risk without stretching the manpower requirements. As far as frequency of follow-up is concerned, like what I presented in a previous talk, is when you have initial examination should be done at 3 to 5 years following diagnosis of type 1 diabetes, and at the time of diagnosis if it is a type 2 diabetes. If there is no retinopathy, you have a next examination after a year. If there is a mild to moderate retinopathy, you can have 6 to 12 months follow-up, and in severe NPDR, patients should be followed at 2 to 4 months. As far as diabetic macular edema is concerned, the follow-up should be at 2 to 4 months. In pregnant diabetics, we should have examination prior to conception and again in early trimester, first trimester. And patients who are having a severe NPDR, you have examination once in 1 to 3 months. So when you look at these different trials, and whether important thing whether you can modify these risk factors or course of the disease, when look at this trial, if you have a strict DCCT trial showed that if there is a strict control of blood sugar, you can reduce the risk of progression of diabetes by 43%. If you control, you evidence is concerned, and his recommendation grade should be 1. Fenofibrate, advise irrespective of serum lipid level. We have a level 2 evidence for it, and recommendation grade should be B. There is a marginal benefit with ACS inhibitor, but basically rather than ACS inhibitor, because it controls the blood pressure, and indirectly the benefit is because of control of blood pressure per se. Coming to management of diabetic macular edema, ETDRS has shown that there is 50% reduction in moderate visual loss in eyes with DME, and also there is mild to moderate NPDR where laser are treated. DRCR-NET modified the protocol and macular laser and suggested that we should have less intense burn and smaller spot size. As far as evidence from laser treatment group of many trials shows that up to 15 or more later improvement is seen in 80% of laser treated eyes. So when you compare with pharmacology versus laser, look at the previous talks by Dr. Tara Prasad Das. RESTORE study has shown that ranibizumab alone or with laser has not much, has gained almost 6 later improvement, and there is not much significant difference, and it is better than laser alone. And BOLD study has shown that bevacizumab is equally beneficial. As far as triamcinolone is concerned, DRCR-NET has shown that at 2 years of, when you look at a reduction of central macular thickness, there is a 139 micron reduction in a laser group alone, and if you have given triamcinolone 1 milligram or 4 milligram, there is not much difference as such in two groups. As far as in pseudophakic eyes, laser with triamcinolone is as good as ranibizumab. When a slow release devices, you look at it, as Ozurdex shows more than 10 letter improvement in 30% of his treated patients. Iluvien, we are awaiting the evidence now. He has recently got approval. However, there is a risk of glaucoma and cataract when you deal with all these steroids. So as far as DME is concerned, probably for anti-VEGF, we have level 1 evidence. And so recommendation is grade A. Triamcinolone, you have level 3 or 4 evidence. Recommendation should be grade is C or D. And Ozurdex and Iluvien, we are still waiting for subsequent data. To summarize, laser still has a role to play, particularly when you have focal retinopathy, focal maculopathy. You have slow release steroid consideration if you have there is no response to anti-VEGF drugs, or patient those are having a contraindication for anti-VEGFs. But there is no strong evidence as such for vitrectomy unless there is macular traction, obviously. As far as PDR is concerned, DRS has shown there is 50% reduction in the risk of severe visual loss with treatment. But they have a compulsory side effects, what you call as is a visual field loss, reduction in the night vision, and also risk of treatment include like that worsening of the macular edema or UV effusion. As far as severe NPDR is concerned, there is evidence from ETDRS study. Subtle NV are less easy to detect compared to NVD, and type 2 diabetes will be more often present with vitreous hemorrhage from NV compared to type 1 diabetes. And one can defer treatment in type 1 diabetes probably till PDR develops. And when you have PDR and anti-VEGF drug is concerned, there is mostly uncontrolled. These are what we have is as of now uncontrolled studies. Regression of neovascularization was noted, but the effect is short-lived, and ultimately you need to repeat these injections at 1 to 3 months interval. Anti-VEGF drugs as of now is not considered a replacement for as a PRP for in PDR, and could be potential adjunct in PDR where you have cloudy media, where you have NVI, where you have preoperative to reduce intraoperative bleeding before surgery. As far as vitrectomy is concerned, the current indications would be non-resolving vitreous hemorrhage, TRD, involving the macula or threatening the macula. You have combined retinal detachment. You have macular edema with vitreomacular traction and macular distortion with loss of vision. So as far as early vitrectomy in diabetic retinopathy, particularly type 1 diabetes, there is a significant evidence given by DRVS study. I will stop here. Thank you very much for patient hearing.